You know, money inside a business almost never behaves the way a spreadsheet says it should. On paper, every dollar has a clear job. But in reality, every single dollar is loaded with emotion, with memory, with fear, and with hope. For so many entrepreneurs, business finance isn't just about numbers moving between accounts. It's deeply personal. It's your identity, tangled up with your survival. It's that mix of pride you feel, undercut by a constant, quiet anxiety. Think about it. Most business owners don't wake up excited to check their balance sheets. They wake up thinking about responsibility. Their employees depend on them. Their customers expect consistency. Their families rely on that income. This emotional weight completely shapes financial decisions, long before any logical calculation even has a chance. When cash flow feels tight, people get defensive. They put off big decisions. They hoard cash longer than they should. Or they do the exact opposite and spend impulsively, just to get a little relief from the stress of it all. In our culture, business success is tied so closely to self-worth. Success feels very public and visible. But failure, that feels public too, even when nobody is watching. This creates a strange pattern where entrepreneurs avoid looking too closely at their finances. It's not because they don't care. It's because the numbers feel like a report card, like a judgment on them as a person. Checking the bank account stops being informational and starts feeling like a threat. Then, there's the illusion of movement. When revenue is coming in, it creates this wonderful sense of safety, even if expenses are silently creeping up in the background. Our brains are just wired to respond to motion. Money flowing in feels like progress. Money flowing out feels abstract and distant, right up until the moment it suddenly isn't. This is why so many businesses seem perfectly healthy one day and on the brink of collapse the next. The warning signs were there. They were just filtered out by our emotions. Our culture also celebrates the growth story, not the stability story. This pushes owners to reinvest aggressively, stretch their resources, and bet big on future success. Psychologically, the future always feels more controllable than the present. It is so much easier to believe that tomorrow will fix today's problems than it is to slow down and face the discomfort right now. This is a powerful driver behind decisions that look bold on the surface, but are often rooted in a deep fear of falling behind. At its core, managing business finances isn't about being a math genius. It's about emotional regulation under immense pressure. It's about understanding how we, as humans, respond when uncertainty meets responsibility. And once you realize that financial decisions are really just emotional stories playing out in real time, the numbers stop being so cold and intimidating. Ever wonder why business owners make certain money moves? It's not always about the spreadsheets. Often, it's about the stories that never get told. A late payment that caused sheer panic years ago. A risky bet that paid off and now feels like a superpower. A quiet failure that still haunts the owner's thoughts. These moments create invisible rules that shape every decision, long after the situation has changed. Many business owners, even when they're successful, operate from a place of scarcity memory. Those early days of struggle leave a deep mark. Our brains are wired to remember stress more vividly than success. So, even when cash flow is strong, there's this nagging feeling that it could all vanish tomorrow. This leads to hoarding cash, hesitating on big investments, or always looking for a threat that isn't there anymore. It's not irrational. It's a learned survival skill. Then there's the pressure to look like you have it all together. In the business world, confidence is currency. Owners feel like they have to project total certainty. Eben Wente, wrestling with doubt inside. This creates a huge gap. Publicly, it's all about growth and strategy. Privately, decisions are driven by a quiet fear of being exposed. This fear dictates who gets paid first, how much risk is taken, and when to pull the trigger on a new project. Money also becomes a tool for control. Running a business is one of the few places where you feel you can directly shape your destiny, especially when life feels chaotic. Spending can feel powerful. Cutting costs can feel like you're restoring order, but these are often emotional reactions, not strategic moves. They make sense in the moment because they satisfy a feeling, not because they're the best thing for the bottom line. And let's not forget social media and industry gossip. We're constantly seeing what others are doing, or what they *claim* they're doing. When everyone else seems to be expanding faster or earning more, it creates an intense pressure to keep up. This can push owners to make rash decisions just to relieve the anxiety of falling behind. It's a game of comparison that's almost impossible to win. So, when you look at a business's finances, remember you're not just seeing numbers. You're seeing a reflection of human psychology, our fears, our need for control, and the stories we tell ourselves. Understanding this changes everything. It's not about being good or bad with money. It's about managing our own inner world under pressure. As a business gets bigger, your relationship with money changes, but the feelings around it, they almost never go away. What changes is the scale. Suddenly, decisions feel so much heavier because the consequences don't just affect you anymore. They can impact dozens of people. This added weight doesn't automatically lead to better decisions. More often, it just creates hesitation. Your mind becomes cautious, not because the numbers are scary, but because the responsibility feels permanent. A lot of business owners hit a point where it feels less like they're rerunning the business and more like they're recarrying it. Money becomes the yardstick for how well they're holding everything together. When finances get tight, it feels incredibly personal, even if the reason is something completely out of their control, like market shifts or rising costs. It's easy to internalize these external problems as personal failures. Then there's the quiet loneliness of making big money decisions. In our business culture, being a leader often means deciding things all by yourself. Talking about uncertainty can feel like a risk, and admitting you're confused can feel like showing weakness. So, these critical financial choices are made in isolation, driven by internal fears rather than shared wisdom. Over time, this just amplifies stress and narrows your thinking, making it harder to see all the options that are actually available. Another common trap is getting attached to the way things used to be. Early wins are powerful. They become part of your identity. Letting go of a strategy that once worked can feel like you're erasing your own success story. So, owners might keep pouring money into old ideas or products long after they stop making financial sense. It's not about the data. It's because walking away feels like admitting you failed. Stress also completely changes how we see risk. Under pressure, we tend to swing between extremes. Either everything feels like a massive danger, or nothing does. This explains why some businesses freeze up during uncertain times, while others make huge, desperate gambles. It's the same stress response, driving both behaviors. From the outside, it might look like mismanagement, but from the inside, it just feels like survival. Understanding that business finance is deeply tied to human behavior doesn't make the challenges disappear, but it does help us see them differently. It explains why smart, hardworking people still struggle, and why growth doesn't always bring a sense of peace. At the end of the day, money problems are rarely just about the money. They're about our identity, our fears, our sense of responsibility, and our very human attempt to feel in control when everything is constantly changing. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, be sure to subscribe for more insights. When you first start a business, money feels like fuel. It's what you use to build, to grow, to make things happen. But for so many business owners, somewhere along the way, that feeling changes. Money stops being a tool and turns into a scoreboard that never, ever turns off. Every single month delivers a verdict on your worth. A good month brings a rush of validation, a feeling that you're on the right track. But a bad month, that feels like a personal failure, planting seeds of doubt that are hard to shake. Over time, this constant judgment changes your relationship with your work. You stop seeing progress in the effort you put in and start measuring your value only by the final numbers. This is the quiet entry point for burnout. It's not just about working long hours. It's about the emotional weight of it all. When financial results carry that much meaning, your nervous system never gets a break. Your brain is constantly on high alert, scanning for any sign of trouble. Sleep gets lighter, decisions feel heavier, and the joy you once had in your work starts to fade. You become financially functional, but emotionally exhausted. What once felt like a huge success quickly becomes the new normal, the new baseline you have to maintain. The initial relief disappears, but all the pressure remains. It's a cycle of constantly pushing the goalposts further away, postponing any real sense of satisfaction indefinitely. There's also a hidden grief that nobody talks about. The loss of simplicity. Remember the early days? More customers meant progress. More revenue meant momentum. It was clear and exciting. But as your business grows, so does the complexity. Multiple accounts, various obligations, countless moving parts, they all blur the picture. Your brain struggles with this ambiguity and defaults to focusing on small things it can control, just to feel a sense of stability. This is when you start making financial decisions, not for long-term growth, but to reduce your own emotional stress. Paying off a debt just to feel a little lighter, even if it's not the smartest move. Avoiding a tough conversation with a partner or a client because it threatens the fragile peace. You're not trying to optimize anymore. You're just trying to keep the boat from rocking. What's missing is space. The mental and emotional space to look at the numbers without fear. The space to separate your identity from your business's performance. The space to see money as simple feedback, not a final judgment. Without it, every normal fluctuation feels like a fifth alarm fire. Understanding this dynamic doesn't make business easy, but it does help explain why stability can feel so stressful, and why growth can sometimes feel hollow. It reminds us that business finance isn't just about sustaining an operation. It's about sustaining the human who has to make all the decisions. Have you ever noticed how, after years of running a business, your feelings about money start to change? It's not just about profit and loss anymore. You start to see how money has been silently shaping your emotions, your view of yourself, your work, and even your future. This isn't a sudden light bulb moment. It creeps in during the quiet times. That slight hesitation before you check your bank account. The way good news doesn't bring the same rush it once did, or that surprising sense of calm when a problem arises that would have sent you into a panic before. Money stops being the enemy or the ultimate prize. It becomes a signal, a piece of information. You might notice that your stress levels don't really match what the numbers are saying, or you realize you're still reacting to old fears that just do you aren't applied to your life anymore. Your business has grown and evolved, but your emotional reactions are lagging behind. This is when your perspective starts to shift. You begin to see patterns instead of just isolated events. A slow month isn't a personal failure, and a great month isn't proof that you've finally made it. The emotional roller coaster starts to flatten out. This is a point many never reach. Our culture constantly pushes for more motion, more growth, more proof. But if you do take a moment to pause and reflect, you often find that the hardest part of business finance was never the math. It was asking money to carry a weight of meaning it was never meant to hold. You start to accept that you can't control everything. Markets will shift, costs will rise, and customer habits will change. No amount of hard work can guarantee total certainty. At first, this idea can be unsettling, but soon, it brings a profound sense of relief. If everything isn't your fault, then you don't have to fix everything right this second. This acceptance creates space for calmer, healthier decisions. You're no longer in constant defense mode. Your choices become less reactive, and you can think about the long-term vision again. The business stops feeling like a daily test and more like a long, ongoing conversation with the unknown. What comes out of this is a new relationship with money, one based on observation instead of fear, and curiosity instead of judgment. The numbers still matter, of course, but they no longer define the person reading them. That small separation is incredibly powerful. In the end, running a business isn't just about sustaining revenue. It's about sustaining your own clarity over time. It's about learning to operate within a system without letting that system dictate yourself. For many, this realization comes late, but when it does, it reframes the entire journey. The struggle wasn't a sign of weakness. It was just part of being human. And the story of money becomes less about survival and more about how we all navigate uncertainty while trying to build something that lasts. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more thoughts on the journey of building a business.